Okay, so yay, chapter, exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this chapter.
Okay, okay. Let's just start because we'll start talking about things and then we'll. Okay, so welcome to chapter 11, episode 11 of Belgariad and Beyond. We're up to chapter 11 of Porn of Prophecy in the series of Belgariad books. My name's Sondra Turnbull and I'm here with Alysia Seymour. Hi, Alysia.
Hi. It's good to be back.
Yes, yay. And so as we're excited, we're a bit excited about this chapter because it's starting to get a little bit meaty.
Yeah, this chapter woke me up because I was starting to get, I won't get into details yet, but I was starting to feel like, okay, when is this going to pick up? And this chapter, I was finally like, it had me like, yes, I want to find out.
And it doesn't help, of course, that we're doing one chapter a week when, you know, you and I are kind of avid readers and we're used to like consuming a story and just reading it. And so this sort of stretching out of things must make it sort of, just the act of one chapter a week stretches out and must make it sort of feel slower than it is.
Yeah, it does a little bit. And I feel too, though, had I read this like all the way through, I may have still, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I think I still would have felt like, okay, when am I going to get to like the real magic stuff here?
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that even though it's like 150 pages in, we finally learned. I mean, it was just blatantly.
Yep.
Like,
Anyway,
okay.
So stop. So our first segment of the show is Polgara's cup. So you tell me what's in your cup this week.
Yeah. Let's see. So this week's been really, really good because I was asked to create a course. Like, I mean, he's someone I worked with before. He's creating a course for writers on how to write a book. But he reached out and asked me if I could create a little segment within his course to show people how to write fiction. So I spent time doing that. It was a lot of fun. I just sent him all of the stuff today. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun to work through. And
so hang on, did you tell me what's in your cup?
Oh, so it's like it's really sweet. It's like sweet, but then there's this touch of bitterness to it, which I'll get to. But overall, it's been super sweet. Like I don't know what you would call it. I guess hot chocolate or something. But I've just been really enjoying. It's been kind of quiet. The kids are still home from school, so we're keeping it pretty mellow right now. And in between, I'm just going in to do what I need to do for my creativity, my business. And but the reason that it's a little bit bitter is because this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I have to drive up to the mountains and go to Girl Scout camp with my daughter. And now it's not the fact that I love being able to go with her and spend time with her, just the two of us. But we've done this already now twice, and I don't necessarily enjoy camping. Thankfully, I
remember the last time you went camping. Sorry.
Probably the last Girl Scout camp.
I think so.
So we at least have cabins, and they do have heat. So I mean, it's not like it's all bad, but
is it cold there?
It's gonna be really cold. Like right now here for San Diego, it's been like in the low 30s in the morning, and that's really, really cold.
30s. Oh, if you're talking Fahrenheit, sorry, I don't. My brain doesn't translate Fahrenheit. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know Celsius, so we're even. But up in the mountains, it's gonna be probably a little bit colder than that. So I'm not looking forward to that. And
maybe it would be beautiful though.
It could be. I just don't do well with the camp, and I don't do well with being around so many children all weekend.
Well, you have a roof over your head. Cabins are fun. Cabins are cool.
They are. I don't know. I don't thrive in camping at all. I don't thrive. So I try to keep positive with it, but I always kind of dread it when it's approaching, because also the food they serve isn't the best. A lot of people get upset stomachs from it and stuff.
You have food sensitivity. That is a problem when you have to go somewhere and someone else is managing the cooking. I do understand that with my gluten sensitivities.
Yeah, so I already am preparing like all of my own stuff to bring, but it has to be stuff that I don't need to heat up. So I got to plan for cold meals for 2 days and while it's cold. And I won't have access to my decaf coffee. I can't drink regular, and they only have regular there.
Shittity, brickety. But, well.
That's it.
Okay. Okay, so maybe your potion should actually be something alcoholic that you can stick into your bag and take with you.
That's true. I really should. Take a bottle of wine with me and
slip a flask in there. You can stick that in the coffee. Maybe that'll fix it all up.
Yeah, I should totally do that. I should do that. It'd keep me warm.
Yeah.
So that's mine. But how about you? What's going on with you?
Well, my potion this week is in a tall glass, and it's lime green, and it's fresh and clear, pure lightness of being. So yes, that's all because I started drinking celery juice. That's like a morning tonic. Every day. So I've done it for 4 days, I think. 4 days now. And first 2 days, well, imagine a little gif of baby Elmo on the potty doing a little potty dance. That was me 2 days in a row, but now it's cool. I'm all settled down and it tastes really good. I really like it. I didn't think I'd really like it at all. I thought it would be a case of hold my nose and like down it, but I really enjoy it.
Do you put anything in it besides celery? It's just straight celery.
Just celery.
Wow, I've never had celery juice.
It's delicious. I really like it. And so there's lots of good things in there for my gut.
Yeah.
And can you tell? I feel really bouncy.
Yes, I can tell.
It's nighttime and I still feel bouncy. So it kind of sets me up for the day. I'm really enjoying it. So
that's good.
That's my potion.
Yeah, celery is really beneficial. I put it in my smoothies when I have my smoothies in the morning. And I don't know, when you blend the whole thing, though, I've never made celery juice. When you blend the whole celery into your smoothie, it takes time to adjust to that taste. But once your body adjusts, the taste becomes like, oh my God, that's so good. Because your body knows it's nourishing.
I must just be in the right place for my taste buds to like just be going, oh, that's the thing that I need. That's so good. But it's not. I'm not like blending it. I've got a proper juicer, so it takes all the pulp out and just zips the juice through. And yeah. So there you go. That's my thing. Enjoying it. It's good for me. I feel amazing. I may have to edit the crap out of this episode because I'm very bouncy and I'm talking a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I could tell you're bouncy earlier when we began the episode. Let you go with it.
just sit back and let it go. I saw that look on your face. I knew that it's what you were doing, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun. So.
Okay. Next segment. You know what? I just have to say, Alysia, we are pretty hot shit at following the timing for our show. It's turned into a natural thing. I'm really proud of us.
Yeah, it's been really good. Really good. I think it's a pretty steady or right around that same mark every time. So.
I think so. Check us out, being a professional. Okay. Your turn. Garion's view.
Okay. This chapter, I'm going to do my best to overview it without getting into it.
So you don't need to get into it. So this is just your 2 minutes of this is what the chapter is. start to finish.
Right. So in this chapter, they're on the road a bit again, journeying with the captain who, took them prisoner in Garion's point of view. And so they're on the road a little bit. We see Garion and Silk have some conversations, and it starts on the road and then it continues on to once they arrive at this destination. Garion seems pretty obsessed with being locked in a dungeon, so I'm not sure if that's like symbolic of anything or not, but it was interesting that he kept bringing it up. And then so they arrive, or no, they're still on the road, and the other big thing was Silk gave like this big education on how kings are elected, and so that was interesting as well. Then they arrive at Sendar. They're taken to the king. Garion's his first time in the palace, so he's kind of amazed by everything. And then they actually have to be taken to be prepared first before they can see the king to look appropriate. And we get to find out who Barrack and Silk really are. And then, of course, at the end of the chapters were the big news with Garion eavesdropping and when he's not supposed to be listening to a conversation between the king, the wolf, and Antpole.
Ba, ba, ba. Keep listening, dear listeners, and you'll find out what Alysia found out today.
It was a big one.
Okay, so I've just read the chapter like this afternoon, and it's quite a long chapter.
It was like 20 pages.
Yeah, but it was one of those. It's one of those chapters where there's a lot in there, but it feels like I don't have a lot to talk about. But every time I think that we always have stuff to talk about anyway, so I don't know why I'm worried.
No, I think there's plenty to talk about. I mean, we can start with they're on the road. More hostels.
Yeah. So we start. So when they start out, they're in the custody of Colonel Brendig and the soldiers, the Sendarian soldiers, and they're being taken to King Fulrak of Sendaria. So they're being taken to the palace at Sendar, and it's snowing and stuff still. And they have to stop a couple of nights, and it's snowing so hard they have to stop at the same place. They have to stay at the same place for a few nights, and that's when Garion sort of he starts questioning people about what they might know about dungeons and how kings might behave to people who had displeased them, or people who were with the person who might have displeased them, and what that might have to do with ending up in a dungeon. And he starts with Dernick. Did you have anything to comment on about that interaction between Dernick and Garion? Or just Garion in general in this sort of...
Yeah, I mean, he kind of, I guess he's talking to Dernick first. I don't remember specifically that conversation, but I know that he also, I think he asks Barrack too about it, does he?
No, he talks to Dernick, and Dernick's sort of very properly Sendarian as Dernick is, and like, well, we haven't done anything wrong. We have nothing to worry about. If we've done nothing wrong, there's nothing to worry about. And so basically, it's almost like a Garion doesn't get to get to be indulged. He doesn't get to go to the place in the conversation that he wants to go with Dernick. So Dernick's sort of like he just stonewalls in. The conversation is over. He doesn't, there's nothing to talk about because we haven't done anything wrong, and if you haven't done anything wrong, it's all good. But and then he talks to Silk.
Yeah,
that's an interesting conversation. I like the way that Silk reacts to his questioning.
Yeah, because this is how he prompts the conversation with Silk to get into the whole thing of how king's elected, because he asks him like, what kind of man is the king? The king that they're going to go visit. So
Yeah, that's right. He well, first Silk tells Garion that the question is unworthy of him when he asks if the king was after someone that had angered him, would the king also punish the people who were with that person, or would he let those people go and just keep the person who had angered him? And I just love that in my head, the expression on Silk's face is like the raised eyebrows and the crooked head, like, seriously? Are you seriously asking that question? This is like the expression that I see in my imagination.
Yeah.
And tells Garion that question is unworthy of you. And so I like that he's not indulged, but he's also asked to step up as a young man rather than being a child, which is ultimately what he wants. And so I think that's I really like that interaction, that little call to step up, you know.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. I think that, I mean, I caught that too, and I pictured the same kind of face.
Did you?
Yeah. And then, but his response to Garion, you immediately get the feeling that Silk isn't very impressed with kings at all, and he finds them very simple-minded and just quite boring people that, like, yeah, they're good people, but they don't do anything very fantastic in their lifetime.
Well, Silk's so, and we find out more about his world of espionage, you know, as the story progresses a little bit. But he's very into the political game, and it's very much a game. The commerce and the politics of the kings and peoples. It's all a game for him, and it's about collecting information. And I don't think he even cares about the money that he is able to make very much. It's just a way of scoring the game.
Yeah, I'm really starting to like Silk a lot. I think he's going to be one of my favorites by the end of the whole series.
And
yeah. So why don't you, like, because this is when he gets into this whole, because Garion asks him, how do you elect a king? Tell me about it. Tell me how it's done.
Yeah, so the point there is that he wants to know what the Sendarian king is like. He asks Silk about the Sendarian king. And Silk's response is, well, like all kings, he's rather foolish. And that sort of leads Garion then to wonder about, well, you know, don't you have to be wise to be a king? And Silk's like, well, no, exactly as you said. He's got no kind of, you know, they're just not very wise people. But the kings of Sendaria are at a disadvantage because they started so low. And this is because this kingdom of Sendaria was created. It didn't exist. Like the other kingdoms existed. And Sendaria was a piece of land. And I won't go into it too much because it gets a bit complicated. But it was a piece of land between two other kingdoms who had big commercial interests, or, you know, they're quite powerful. And they didn't want one or the other to own this large piece of land that you know, sat between them. And so a kingdom was created as like a buffer between them, and that was Sendaria. And so because they had no nobility, they had to, you know, somehow get a king, and they elected a king. Did you want to talk about how this appeared to you, this whole conversation, or did you just...
Well, it was a lot of information for me to take in the first time, just reading it once through. So I know I'm not going to remember a lot of the details, but I do remember him mentioning that they started so low. Does that mean like the first king they had was like really low on the scale of what makes a good person, or what does he mean?
No, I think that it started so low in that the kingdom had no natural or hereditary nobility. Everyone were common folk. They were farmers and producers, and so there weren't any lords or ladies or earls or dukes or whatever. They needed to create the nobility from the peasants who lived there.
And then there's a mention that the Tolnedran emperor decided that there ought to be a kingdom. And then Garion seems, because Silk's telling him about this, and Garion seems like kind of disturbed by that idea. Like, who is he to make that decision for people?
Yeah, so this is sort of where we're starting to be introduced to, like, the Tolnedrans have been mentioned before, and we're starting to understand that they like money a lot, and they like power, and
well, they were in the last chapter, right?
Yeah, they have the legionnaires.
hostels.
Yeah, so they have the great roads between the cities, and they're a great commerce, a great empire for commerce. And the Tolnedran legionnaires are the official guard, the official soldiers of Tolnedra, and they keep the roads safe and run the hostels and stuff like that.
Okay. So then what moves into the next part of this, because he explains in great detail like how they elected the kings, and I don't know if there's anything else you really wanted to touch on about that.
I think specifically. I like the fact that it shows Silk in, he's just he sort of hovers between being a complete asshole and just teasing for the sake of teasing. I mean, he's spinning this tale, one, to educate Garion, but two, to annoy the hell out of Colonel Brendig, who's sitting in earshot. And so Silk is exaggerating lots of points in the story and, making it out to be, just telling whoppers about how many years it took and how many votes, and, just making it all sound a little bit tongue-in-cheek and like a silly story, because he just wants to annoy Colonel Brendig.
Right. Yeah, that's the next part I was going to get into, because I really enjoyed that too. I thought it was funny.
Oh, sorry, honey. You talk about that then.
It's okay. No, it's fine. We were talking about it, but I am agreeing, because I think I picked up on him too, because he's saying like it took him 1,000 years to vote, and then Brendig's actually like 6 years actually, so just those little comments are really, really funny. And I think for me, this is the first time I'm really, really being able to see like Silk's personality come through. Like I guess there's been little hints of it, but for me, it hasn't really stood out that much. I couldn't really see him as a character till right now.
Well, that's such an interesting comment, and that's really cool, because I know the characters so well. I know them from the start of the story, so I can sort of have their personality already fixed when they appear at the start, whereas you're just getting to know them. So that's a very cool comment from you.
Yeah, it's such a difference, because I know, like, when myself revisiting stories I read 10 times over, it's the same. You already know who they are from the beginning, even though you're not supposed to. So it's a much different experience. And
totally, it's totally worth it. If it's a story you love or characters you love, totally go back and read it again, because you get a different perspective and a different story even.
Yeah, different story. Yeah. It's just like watching. Okay, really quick interruption here. This just reminded me.
Is it Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
It's actually neither this time. But I've been meaning to bring this up on the show, and I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
It's actually about a Netflix show called The Haunting of Hill House.
I wasn't allowed to watch that because I get nightmares when I watch stuff like that. I was banned. I wasn't even allowed to look at the television while it was on, and my girlfriend was watching with headphones. I had to look away.
So I'm the same way, and I don't know what it was about this. It super intrigued me, and I finally gave in one day, but I made sure it was the middle of the day. All the windows are open. And I got like so addicted to this show because there's a few moments that are kind of like, oh God, that probably is going to haunt me in my sleep tonight. But for the most part, it was really about the characters in the family and this deeper rooted understanding of what darkness can do to you, not just about hauntings, but within yourself. Like,
well, that's the part that scares me and really gives me nightmares.
Yeah, but it helps you to, I mean, for me, it helped me like understand. It was just really beautifully done.
Yeah.
And so, but it's one of those, I brought it up is because it's one of those stories that as you're watching it, you get to the end, and at the end, it's just like, oh my gosh. And so it's when you want to watch over again so that you can see all the clues you missed the first time. And that's kind of like with books too, and so I'm watching that show the second time through, and it's even more because I know now that there's not a lot of the in-your-face, scary, gruesome, haunting stuff. It's more of the story of a family and the stuff that they went through. And so I can enjoy it, not being afraid of like what's going to jump out at me. So it's the same, and it's the same. Now I can enjoy the characters even more because I already know them.
Yeah.
Just
and I love that you love diving into the dark parts of the story. Like we both, we do it in different ways, you and I, but both of us really appreciate the way that darkness, understanding the darkness in ourselves and using the darkness in story and to understand ourselves, and, you know, to really lean into the things that it triggers inside us and in our own creative works. You know, to do self-inquiry and to just sort of uncover layers of ourselves. I love that. We both love that. And it's not, you know, we don't run away from it.
Yeah. You know, I think there's moments that you get to a moment where you realize you have to face it in order to kind of remove it. Or
there's such beautiful balance in working with the dark and the light.
Yeah,
Where are we up to? We're in a chapter.
So, let's see.
Okay, so Silk's just finished teasing Brendick.
Yeah. Let's see. Barracks here. Nope.
So, talking about the king, blah, blah, blah. History lesson for Garion.
They finally arrive, it looks like. This is when they finally arrive at Sendar, because they're talking about, like, we see the guards at the gates. And
So that's pretty much the chapter. They stay at the hostel. It's like and it could even be that, you know, we need to know this information about the kingdom of Sendari and how it was formed and what the king's like. And so, you know, it's a bit of a vehicle, I think, for information for the reader. But I think it's done very well. It's not too heavy.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Because I like how they tied in the humor to it. To, you know, you're learning it through Silk's version of it, so it makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, but from there, the next big thing is that they're at the palace. They arrive at the palace.
Right. Yeah, this is where I really started, because immediately it's like, what? Wait, there's a big reveal, like immediately after they are like done up for the king.
So they get there and it's not. And so I think Garion starts to wonder what's going on, and he's still seeing visions of dungeons, but it's kind of like, maybe not. I don't really get it. I don't know. I don't understand.
Yeah, and he even like questions Dernick again, and Dernick's kind of like, I'd really appreciate it if you would not bring up dungeons again, please.
That's true, he does.
I thought that was so funny, because I think he's starting to feel the nervousness of like, oh man, what's going to happen to us when we go in?
Oh, that's right, because Garion sees the castle and it's like this big tower, and it wonders to Dernick where the dungeons are. Yeah.
Yep.
And so the next thing that I really like is, they're all taken away to be bathed and changed and made presentable for the king. And do you have any comments to make about how this goes? Because I have a favourite bit, but I have the same favourite bit, so I'll let you say it first.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything specifically. I just see, they each go off to their own room. And Garion's kind of still confused about why and what, and he has to be directed, like, take your clothes off. What are you doing? Get undressed. We need to bathe you. And then they all reunite in the hallway or wherever, the corridor or whatever.
And when Turnip comes out, he's like so angry. He's like all pale with anger. Because you can imagine, like, he's just I imagine him to be quite proper and prudish and like, and he comes out and says, fellow wants to bathe me.
Oh yeah, I do remember that, and he threatened him as if he tried to do it or something, he would
drown him in his own tub. Oh, hashtag.
That's a good one. Yeah, so that was really funny because he didn't want anyone to touch him, and Garion's still kind of baffled by like I don't understand, why would he be offended if he saw us in our real clothes,
Yeah, because and Barak actually says, because kings are offended by our common clothes, we need to, be made respectable so that we don't offend the king's eyes, something along those lines. And so, they're all standing in the hallway, and so there's Garion and Silk and Barak, who are all looking very neat and trimmed, and Silk's beard's trimmed into a nice shape, and they're looking very elegant. And then Turnip joins them, and then Mr. Wolf joins them.
Yeah, I liked his entrance too. It was great because obviously I'm picturing Gandalf, of course.
Yes,
like
of course you are.
robe.
Yes.
And he's obviously livid about being put in those clothes. So I still didn't know why.
So Gandalf the white, not Gandalf the grey.
Right.
The picture, so you've got to picture Mr. Wolf coming out of the room in a white robe with a big deep cowls down the back, looking like Gandalf the White when he's in the forest and he hasn't remembered his name yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like got a glow around him.
Yes, can't you see the glow?
Yeah, that's what I imagined. And then, of course, that Paul comes out again.
No, well, he's absolutely furious. Mr. Wolf.
Yeah.
How about having to be dressed up like this? Yeah, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, your turn.
well, him and Aunt Pole are both, she's done up like she was before at the last place. And so she basically kind of takes the lead and like guides them to, where they're headed to meet the king.
And they march off. I love the image of them. She comes out and joins them and takes Mr. Wolf's arm, and they march off up the corridor without waiting for anyone to show them the way. And Colonel Brendig and the soldiers are kind of like taggling behind them, going, "Oh, hang on, we'll show you the way." And they're like, "Yeah, well, we don't need you to show us the way, dude. Get out of my way." And they sweep off.
And then they're asking them, "Can we at least announce who you are?" And then Wolf's like, "He knows who I am, guys. You don't need to."
So that's snap, in they go up to the throne where King Fulrak is waiting for them.
Yeah, this was a good scene because this is where we soon well, I don't think quite actually, this is where we learn about Silk. It's just thrown out there.
We learn about all of them.
Well, Aunt Pole is, addressing the king and being the cold-hearted person that she likes to be, just to put on the tough skin. And, the king is kind of like doting on her and Mr. Wolf and all of that. And she's just kind of like
unimpressed, totally unimpressed.
Yeah, you're too kind, but she says it with like no emotion behind it. And
so they obviously have long history. They know each other very, very well. The king knows exactly who they are, whoever that is. And they have, and this is, so the king is like being quite apologetic in his behavior to them, saying, trying to pacify them and soften them.
And when that doesn't work is when he veers the direction off to Barak and Silk, and that's how we learn, because he addresses Barak as Lord Barak.
Yes.
And how is the brother of the King of Cherek doing?
Yes.
So you're kind of like, wait, what?
So Barak is the cousin of the King of Cherek.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then right after that,
Silk.
He addresses Silk as Prince Keldar.
Yes, of the kingdom of Drasnia. So he is the nephew of the king of Drasnia. He's the prince.
Right. So that was a big revelation for me. And the way it's just right there with like no warning that it's coming, like, oh, he's a prince of Drasnia. Okay. Okay, I got that.
So Wolf is sort of speaking in a terse voice when he gets there to the king, so that only the king can hear, but basically saying, what the hell are you doing, dude? We were busy doing something really important.
Right. Well, don't they go off into like a private area and close the door?
Well, they do. They go into dinner first. So it's like a public dinner for the court. There's a court dinner, and then after that, the king stands up and says, "Excuse me, dear guests. I'm going to take my noble visitors, off." And he and Aunt Pol and Mr. Wolf go off into a side chamber. Sorry, no. They all go, first of all, to the king's private chambers, and then that's like their little group. And then from there, the king takes Aunt Pol and Mr. Wolf to a separate room. And
but then we do spend some time before all of that at the dinner.
Yes,
they're all eating dinner, and then we get introduced to somebody.
Scene. So you talk about that, because I love that scene. It's so much fun.
Well, the main thing I remembered from this scene is that Garion starts talking to Silk in that secret language. Because I don't remember that.
He's nervous because it's like a big state dinner, and he's nervous about making a fool of himself. And he sort of says to Silk, don't let me mess up.
Right. But then I think he starts doing it because he's suspicious of that other man that's talking to him and asking him questions. And so
I don't think he's a bit suspicious so much as, what the hell do I say? Like, I'm a kid and this old dude's asking me questions. I have no idea what to say. And so he's sort of flicking his fingers to Silk across the table to say, tell me what to say.
Yeah. So that's the part that stood out from me. I don't know if I'm missing anything else from that. And when we meet the queen too.
Oh, well, in that little conversation, I will talk about it just a little bit, because this is like a repeat character. He shows up again later in the stories, this Earl of Selene. Okay. So he's an old dude, and he's, for all intents and purposes, talking to Garion, and Silk is feeding Garion the answers in the secret language across the table. And at the end of the dinner, they all stand up, and the Earl of Selene says to Garion, "Oh, thanks very much for the excellent conversation. It's so good to get the opinion of the young people of the kingdom." And then he turns and looks at Silk, and basically says, "Yes, well, I may be an old fool, but I still have a few tricks up my sleeve," or something like that. And Silk laughs and goes, "Oh, you've got the best of me." And then Garion's like, "You knew all along that he could understand." And Silk's like, "Yeah, of course I did."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so Garion gets a bit miffed about that, but
that part where he admits he knew what they were saying to each other the whole time.
Yeah, and so he's feeling a little bit tender, Garion, because like back in the hostel, he's sort of really starting to think more and more about, who am I? Asking himself, if Silk was so sure that Aunt Pol can't possibly be my aunt, it's absolutely impossible. And so he's still having this identity crisis, and starting to ask more and more often, who am I? And so he's feeling a bit tender. As we do when we're 14 and 15, everything is like a big deal, and we get hurt really easily, and we feel like we're the butt of every joke if we're not included specifically. And so we get to the end of this dinner, and he feels like he's been the butt of a big joke that Silk's been playing with the Earl of Selene. Because
I like the way he confronts Silk too, because he's kind of like, can't you do anything without having to be sly about it?
That is true. I did now that you say that, it did strike me this time that I think that I have skipped over that a lot and not really taken that particular part in. Mm-hmm. Garion does seem to be quite sharp when it comes to calling Silk out, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I think, he's obviously, his feelings are hurt because of what happened, and he's now grumpy. And it's his way, I think, of almost kind of jabbing back at Silk for like, you got me, so you're not going to get away unscathed. Like, I'm going to try to jab at you. It's not going to work, of course, but he's going to try.
Nice observation. So he sort of got that little bit of a boost of courage from that little bit of anger.
I can see him saying this is like, why do you have to be so sly about everything? Come on. And he's almost like really irritated at this point.
And
Silk by this.
And I can see that I can imagine him being irritated as he says that. And then the next thing he observes is that must be a really lonely way to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that he doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah, to not trust anybody. And there's mention again of that dry voice in Garion's mind that prompts him to make this observation, almost like the voice has given him, said to him, oh, this is interesting. I do like this dialogue that he has with this dry voice in his mind, this older, wiser voice that tends to be a killjoy sometimes.
Yeah. It is interesting the moments that that voice comes in to kind of prompt him of like making him say something he wouldn't otherwise say. So
in the conversations that Wolf's having with the king before they get taken away, he's sort of complaining about, are you trying to draw attention to, us, to every Murgo in the country? So there's mention of the Murgos, and the king's like, well, everyone's looking for you anyway. All the kings and queens are looking for you. You wouldn't have gotten much further.
Yeah.
So they go off to the private room, and sort of the king's talking about, mobilizing for war. And is this part of the conversation that Garion overhears?
That's what I was looking for, because it's let's see.
Oh, okay. It's in the private room that he says the stuff about the Silk and Barrack being royal.
That's in front of everybody. Like, he just kind of says it like everybody already knows this.
Yeah, and then
it's scary and it's news.
and the other big thing, when the king's being introduced to everyone, like, he knows Keldar, which is Silk's proper name, and Barrack, and then Aunt Pol steps forward to introduce Dernick and Garion.
Right. I remember that.
Okay, you talk about that.
She kind of just says that he's just some boy. I had nothing else. I no, we couldn't do anything else with them, so he had to come.
I know. Can you imagine how crushed Garion is? His guts just dropped through his feet.
Yeah, and we see his reaction too, where he's kind of like, "What?" And that's all I am to you. And I think he takes it almost literally, not realizing that she's just trying to put up a front for the king to protect Garion.
Of course he does, because he already believes that she's can't possibly be his aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it's just an extra blow.
And she doesn't even try to be nice about it. She's just like, blah, whatever. He's just some kid.
Yeah, that's just her way, I guess. I mean, that's what I'm seeing here, is that's her way.
So holy crap.
And it's not the last blow she gives him either, which we'll get to.
Poor Garion.
Unknowingly, of course, she does, because he shouldn't have been listening.
Okay, let's get to the conversation that Garion, it turns out, is a bit of an eavesdropper.
Yeah. We've seen that a lot already.
We've seen this quite a bit. The sneaky little bugger likes to eavesdrop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so he moves his way over towards the door to pretend he's examining a tapestry, but he's concealing the fact he's actually trying to listen.
And the door's closed this time. There's not even a jar.
I know.
So he's really got to listen hard.
So they must be speaking very loudly, because he can hear everything.
Maybe he's just very good at eavesdropping.
Yeah, and so we hear within these doors immediately, the first thing we catch is that, how do you say the king's name? Fulrak?
Fulrak.
Fulrak addresses Old Wolf as the Ancient One, which is the second time we've heard this.
That's the horse master, back when they were getting the Algarian horses, referred to him as Ancient One, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So this is the second time I was like, okay, I'm about to find something out right here. Okay. Ancient One. Yeah, so this is where Wolf really kind of lets him have it of like
did you start getting excited?
Yeah, I did. I'm like, this is something Garion shouldn't be hearing, and now we get to hear it all. So something good is coming. And the king is like really apologetic, but then he's also kind of like, but I was told the kings of Aloria, they've all been searching for you, and they wanted me to bring you. I can't just, dismiss that.
So Aloria, just a little incidental lesson, Aloria is the kingdom like Cherek and Drasnia and Tolnidra, basically all of those kingdoms. That's Aloria.
Okay. And that is, Sandaria is composed of other.
Sandaria is part of Aloria.
Oh, okay. So then the king starts bringing up the accursed one arises. If he comes back now, we're all doomed. So my mind immediately went to Torak, just because I think it's been obvious.
Because you're a clever girl, yes.
And then this is the big reveal, because right after that statement, the king, he's telling him about this, and then he's like, but you already know all of that, Belgarath. And I'm like, wait a second, who's Belgarath? And I had to go back and read that again. He's calling Old Wolf Belgarath. So that was the big, and then this is when I was like, okay, let me finish.
So hang on, you had to go back and work out who Belgarath was?
Well, that's what I'm explaining, is that there was only like 2 pages left in this, so I quickly finished those 2 pages, and then I had to go back and read the prologue again, because I'm like, I think it was in the prologue, it tells me who Belgarath was. And then that's when I had this epiphany of rereading the prologue, because I'm like, it all makes complete sense to read the prologue now.
Yep.
Then I figured out.
Oh my God, I think I did exactly the same thing, exactly what you did at this point the first time I read the story.
Yeah, because it was. I'm like, I know I've heard the name Belgarath, but I couldn't for the life of me remember the history. So I'm like, I know the prologue had some history. Let me go see if it's in there. And of course, it's filled with Belgarath in there. So we learned that, Old Wolf is actually this sorcerer that's lived for 7,000 years or however many, and so now that we know he is a sorcerer, it's kind of like, okay, well, what does this mean? So Garion, kind of trips himself up at this point, because he's like,
almost
trying to play it cool.
You imagine sort of headbutting the wall or something.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh wait, I'm just dusting my pants off, sorry. So that was a funny little point in there, but they just continue this conversation, right? That Mr. Wolf is upset because he's like, you just explained to them that I'm in pursuit of the thief, trying to stop all this from happening, like, and you guys are slowing us up. So like, tell them to back off. And then Aunt Pole chimes in to kind of back up Mr. Wolf. He's like, you're interfering, that's costing us time we can't afford.
And then Mr. Wolf says, okay, all right, that's fine, I won't raise my hand against you. I'll let you finish.
No, I was just following along because I'm making sure I'm not.
I won't raise my hand against you, nor will my daughter.
Right. Is that where is that part where he says that?
And then he says, and then Aunt Pole, speak for yourself, Old Wolf, Aunt Pole said grimly. No, Polgara, he says. If we have to go to Valalorn, let's go. Right.
And then she even took affirmed even further, because she's like, I think your age is beginning to soften your brain, father. So then you're, of course, like, okay. Polgara is Mr. Wolf's daughter, but really Mr. Wolf is Belgarath. So really,
Pole
is Polgara.
The sorceress.
Yeah. And again, when I was reading through the prologue, realizing that Belgariad had twins. So now there's Polgara's sister somewhere coming up later, I'm assuming.
Belgariad.
Which will be interesting. Well, we learn in the prologue she was sent to actually marry the king.
The Riven King.
Yeah, at the time. So supposedly Aunt Pol thinks that she lived a human life and had to perish. We'll see. So that was interesting.
Yes, so that is the big end of chapter reveal. So Garion hears all of this.
Yeah.
And of course, his worst fears are confirmed. She can't possibly be his aunt.
I felt so sad for him here because the comment of like that he's adrift in a world with no ties of blood or heritage to cling to. Like, I could just feel like the way the author described that, I could feel like the pain of what that would feel like. And it was like,
oh my God, I'm feeling a bit emotional. That hasn't happened since the first time I read this. Oh.
Yeah. It was kind of sad because it's like, that would be a really scary feeling as being that age.
Yeah.
And you're not even at home when you find this out. You're out in this crazy adventure that's dangerous. And
all he wants to do now is just go back to Feldal's farm and be out of all of this craziness and not have to think about any of these things that are scaring him and making him feel so alone.
And even the fact that now he thinks that Aunt Pol has made a cruel hoax out of his life. That hit home. It's like, especially after what she just said to him in that room with the king. It's like, just some boy. He's just some boy.
So we end the chapter now with these two big story-shaking truths. And they're all headed to Valalorn, which is the capital of the kingdom of Cherrick, which is where Barak is from, where all the kings and queens of Eloria are meeting in general council, and they're waiting for Belgariad and Polgara to meet with them to advise them what to do about what they see as an impending war with the Angaret kingdoms, of whom Torak is God, and now we hear the name Accursed One, which kind of rings all kinds of terrible clanging bells. Yeah. Does that make sense? Am I? Yeah?
Yeah.
Any question?
Yeah,
because this has actually been a very long chapter. We've been talking for a long time.
I know. But it was filled with so much. I mean, we learned who everybody was in one fell swoop. We now know Barak and Silk are more than they seemed, and we actually know who Mr. Wolf and Aunt Pol are now. So, I mean, to me, that was this big, I'm like, yes, now we can finally get into some of these secrets of what this magic and the orb and all of that.
Yeah.
Because now Garion's going to know who they really are.
Yeah.
So.
And he was like, oh, well, and so he finds out all this stuff when they're in the throne room, and then he sort of introduces just the boy, and the king goes, oh, hello, hi, Garion. And Garion's like, well, the king says something like, oh, noble company for one so young. And Garion's like, yeah, well, I didn't know who the hell anyone was. Nobody told me anything.
Right. Yeah.
And we also found out, just as a little aside, we also found out that Barak is married, but that's a sensitive subject. And he got very grumpy when it was mentioned. So there we go. Something there. All right. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I know. Exhale.
Whew.
So on to the magic of this chapter.
So for me, it was just simply the revelation that Aunt Pol and Mr. Wolf are Polgara and Belgariad. I think that's pretty freaking magical. Yeah. Mine was, I don't know. I mean, it's not real magic, but I think I just really, really connected with Silk in this chapter. I loved that he's being a smartass, especially the moment when he is kind of teasing Brendig a lot about, electing the king and stuff. And the comment that got me the most, like I was cracking up with, was when he's talking about they finally elected King Fundar, who was a rutabaga farmer. I think he was the first king ever to be elected. And then Brendig insists that he did more than raise
rutabagas, Silk. And then Silk's like, oh, I'm sorry. He raised cabbages too. You cannot forget the cabbages, okay? He's telling Garion this. Like, the cabbages are really important, Garion. Don't forget them.
Well, I think there is sort of a magic about Silk. It's like a glamour. His ability to be whoever the character in his mind that he wants to be. She's just sort of, his whole personality transforms. I think there is a magic about that.
Yeah, it is, because not everybody can be so witty on their feet that way. I know I can't. Well, sometimes I can. Not very often. Not like
okay. So, little bit of a real light. Oh my God. I think my bounce has finally bounced.
Yeah.
Real life relating, a bit of a personal insight. I had to think about this one.
Yeah, me too.
But I realised that there have been more than a couple of occasions when I've been completely aware that someone has been listening to a conversation that I'm having, and I have pretended as though I didn't realise that they were listening. I've done that like several times, like, and schooled my countenance to, like, I don't know. It's like it changed from being a conversation I was having with a person to a performance I was part of for the benefit of someone who I was pretending couldn't hear me, but I was very well aware that they could hear me. It's a weird place in my head.
That's really, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because of the one that I chose.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I guess
maybe
we have kind of like, maybe you were the one.
Maybe in another life I was that person you were pretending. Because I chose that I have been that person, and I don't do as often as Garion by any means, but
yeah,
I have been in a situation where it is like, it's so intriguing that you kind of just have to know what is going on. Like, I have to know. So you pretend to be engaged with something else nearby so that you can either, if it's listening to what they're saying or like observing what's happening. I've been there. So I related to Garion with that, the stumble and like pretending like it was something else.
Oh, we totally compliment each other there.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to prophecy speaks. And look, right here in my spreadsheet, prophecy with an S. Far out. Change that to a C.
There we go.
So the segment is Prophecy Speaks, and what we do inside the segment is prophesy. Haha. There we go. The correct use of the word. I'm going to use the same book that I used last week.
Okay. That was Spitting Out the Bones.
Yeah, Spitting Out the Bones, a Zen master's 45-year journey. Just cause, bit of Zen is never a bad thing. My favourite Zen book, which I have to get a copy of, is the Tao of Pooh, as in Pooh Bear. It's a great book, and as soon as I have a copy, we're going to be doing prophecy out of that. Okay, so what do I need this week? What do I need? Focus. I need focus. I want to get back into writing, and I think I'd just like a little bit of direction about my magical realism series, please, because I'd intended to start writing the second book, but I have withdrawn the first edition of the first book from all sales platforms. You can't buy it anymore because I want to do some more work on it. I want to do another draft on it and send it off to a new editor. and develop the story, just deepen the story. And so I'm wondering, do I start the second book, the draft of it, or do I focus on, you know, doing the changes to book one, which may affect book two? So in the end, it might save me time and it might help inform where the story's going in book two. I may have just done my own prophecy, but I'm going to see. I'm going to see what Spitting Out the Bones has for me. Oh, okay. What we work on is our life, not some ideal. And a good part of that work is spitting out the bones, which takes tremendous faith and trust in oneself as the Buddha Dharma. If we are still judging ourselves, is this Buddhism or not Buddhism? Am I living up to this ideal or not? It's because of a lack of deep realization and a lack of true faith, not in something, but in no thingness. Buddha nature. This realization is what brings out the faith and trust that is already inherent in oneself. If you truly realize that and are living it, everything else is bones. So I need to take everything in.
I'm staying quiet on this one because I'm letting you process.
Thank you. So I need to take everything in and then spit out the bones. That sounds a hell of a lot like I'm going to be working on book one.
That's what I got from it. I just wanted to hear you say it first.
Okay, there we go.
That was good.
Your turn.
Well,
I tell you, this stuff works. Every week I say the same thing, don't I? It works.
Yeah, every week. It's, it's true though. And it's funny because I'm also mine is based on like a decision too that I've been back and forth on, like I would say for a year at least. And I've literally gone back and forth and physically made changes in my outside world to adapt. And that is, and I'm basing it yet again, which is why I've come to this place of why. And it's because I cannot for the life of me figure out the people I'm most meant to help with what I do. I've been pulled between those who are like me on the business journey and who want to share their story in a unique way and write a book of their journey through fiction. That's where I was at. And then I shifted to, no, I need to work with people who are aspiring to write fiction purely for the joy of writing fiction, and be that light for those who don't have guidance to write more from an inward perspective. But now as I've been more active in kind of seeking out those people, I'm now all of a sudden it hit me to return to the other approach. And so I'm just kind of like, and this happened to me several times. So I'm kind of like, okay, which one is it? And I need to stick with that at least for a full year of making that's it. No back and forth, because I feel like I'm restarting myself every time. And I don't know why it's so confusing to me. I think because I have those two sides. And so they battle each other out in me. But I really want some guidance on which way am I going and how to stick with that one for the next year.
Okay.
That's it. No back and forth. And I'm doing A Wrinkle in Time again, just because. Let's see. She looked around rather wildly. They were standing in a sunlit field, and the air about them was moving with the delicious fragrance that comes only on the rarest of spring days, when the sun's touch is gentle and the apple blossoms are just beginning to unfold. She pushed her glasses up on her nose to reassure herself that what she was seeing was real. They had left the silver glint of a biting autumn evening, and now around them everything was golden with light. The grasses of the field were a tender new green, and scattered about were tiny multicolored flowers. Meg turned slowly to face a mountain reaching so high in the sky that its peaks were lost in a crown of puffy white clouds. From the trees at the base of the mountain came a sudden singing of birds. That's the end of the page.
Okay.
So I don't feel like I necessarily got an answer on a decision yet.
What do you feel like it's telling you?
I feel like I've been in this place of being connected to, letting go of stuff I don't need to, instead going within and going to that place that's symbolic of like the field of flowers within, that's always there for you to access. You just have to be open and letting it come through. Mm-hmm. And so that's what came to my head when I was reading about this. This is the moment when they first test her to another part of the universe, and this is what she's seeing there. Mm-hmm. And so I think maybe it just is directing me to still spend some more time there, mm-hmm. and the answer will come.
Mm-hmm. Like a mountain going up into puffy white clouds. It will be so obvious.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's mine.
Oh, good. So you get to be kind to yourself for a little while. I totally approve. I approve. Go be kind to yourself for a while and let the answer come.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Cool. So,
wow.
I'm going to write my prediction.
Yes, please.
Chapter.
What's going to happen?
Well, I didn't write one down. I skipped that part. But I want to see really quick last week. Was I accurate?
Oh, I don't know.
I said Mr. Wolf will pull something out of his sleeve to get them out of a tough spot, and they will be on their way again, tracking the thing in person thereafter.
Bow.
I mean, he kind of gets them. I don't think he gets them out of it. He just kind of gives it to the man that got him in the hole. But
no. Try again.
That's okay. So I don't know. I noticed that we're moving now from the Sondaria section of the book to the Cherik. It says part 2 Cherik.
Yeah, the book is cut up into the kingdom names. So the first part of the book was Sondaria, and that's and when you've got the paperback, it's got the maps, and like fantasy novels often do, the maps of the kingdoms. And the second part is Cherik. So yeah, that's what we're going into with the next chapter.
I never fail at the end of every episode. My
the
dog
comes in.
She starts playing like she knows I'm almost done. Like, oh, let's go. I'm ready to go play. And it always distracts me. Okay, so I guess Cherik, I don't really know what to expect there, but I think
it's where Barrack's from.
Okay. So I think that if that's where they're going to be taken, I don't know. Are they going to be taken to see these kings, the place that they're supposed to go, or are they actually going to get out of it and continue on their own little journey?
You're predicting it.
So I'm going to, I feel like something is going to come into the way of, they're going to plan to go with it and okay, fine, I'll just do it. But something's going to get in the way to where they have to flee. And they're going to end up being separated from this path and end up forced back into the path of finding what it is, the orb or whatever, and the goal that they initially had. Okay.
You just write that into the spreadsheet because, we don't want to forget that.
I will.
All right, my darlings. Now it's time for hashtags. And I actually remembered to write a couple down.
Yeah.
So my hashtags for this episode are, so we'll read them out and then we'll choose one. My hashtags are hashtag what are words and hashtag author flub, because I don't know if you heard, but I totally cocked up prophecy and prophesy with the C and the S. And I've been spelling prophecy with an S all this time, and it's wrong. It's just wrong. I had it wrong. And now I have to go all over the interwebs and find all the places that I put an S and change it to a C. So, and also Did you do that one or did I? Hashtag drown him in his own tub.
That was you.
And also hashtag spitting out the bones, because I think that prophecy of mine was pretty good.
Yeah. I only had one that I came up with beforehand, and that was a toad or possibly a radish.
We didn't talk about that in the conversation. So that came up because Polgara, when as soon as we sort of discovered in that little private overheard conversation that she was Polgara, she threatened to turn anyone who got in their way into a toad or possibly a radish.
Yeah, I loved it because she was so serious about it. Like, so serious.
Oh, okay. That, you know what? That's the hashtag. A toad or possibly a radish.
Awesome.
So dear listeners, if you have made it all the way to the end of this episode, we would love for you to hit us up on social media at Belgariad and Beyond on Instagram or Facebook with the hashtag a toad or possibly a radish. It will not be in the show notes. It's a secret little Easter egg for those of you who get to the end of the show. And it's a way for you to let us know that you love us so much that you actually get to the end of the show. You care enough about the whole thing to do a hashtag. So hopefully we'll see you somewhere around the place. If you head to our website, belgariadandbeyond.goddesskindled.com, there will be links to all of our social media sites. Just in case the description on your podcatcher doesn't include the links, which some of them do not. I don't know why. Can't fix it. Sorry. But if you go to our website, all the things are there.
Awesome. Yeah, it's look forward to hearing from you guys. On Instagram is where I hang out, so please use the hashtags there so that we can interact and get to know you guys.
Yeah, that would be so great. So, and especially if you do some prophecy for yourself, hop onto Instagram or come onto the Facebook page and put your prophecy in there so we can all, talk about it. So go to your favorite place to chat and hang out, and let's start a conversation, because I just can't wait to hear about people's prophecy. The first time that, the first time someone sends us one of these things in, I know that we're up to chapter 11 now, and hopefully by now we've had lots of interaction with you, but, I'm just going to blow my little tiny mind with excitement when that happens.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Okay, I'm tired. I go now.
Okay. Well, you guys enjoy your week. And we'll see you again for chapter 12. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. See you next week. Mwah. Okay. That's us, babe.